I found the envelope on my desk 3 days after my wedding, plain white, no return address, just my name, Elias, written in handwriting I didn't recognize. Inside was a single photograph and a receipt from a hotel I'd never heard of. The date on the receipt was from my bachelor party weekend. The photograph showed my fiancée's car in the parking lot. That's when I knew my entire life had been a performance, and I'd been the only one who didn't know I was acting. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where this really started. Back to when I still believed in brotherhood. Back to when I thought I knew what loyalty meant. My name is Elias Vance, and for 15 years I built my life around two pillars: my career as a structural engineer and my friendship with a man named Derek Hartwell. We met in college, two broke kids studying engineering at Portland State, bonding over late-night problem sets and dreams bigger than our bank accounts. Derek was the kind of person who made you feel like you were the most important person in the room. Charismatic, sharp. The guy everyone wanted to be around. We were inseparable. When I landed my first job at Morrison & Associates, a mid-sized structural engineering firm, I recommended Derek for a position 6 months later. We celebrated his hiring at a dive bar in southeast Portland, talking about the future like it was something we could build together, blueprint by blueprint. And for a long time, it felt like we were building something real. Derek and I became the firm's rising stars. We worked on projects together, commercial buildings, residential complexes, bridge reinforcements. We developed a rhythm. I was the meticulous one, double-checking calculations, ensuring every beam could handle the load. Derek was the visionary, the one who could walk into a client meeting and sell a concept with nothing but confidence and a smile. Outside of work, we were brothers, real brothers, not just the kind who show up for the good times. When my father died during my 3rd year at the firm, Derek took a week off work to help me sort through estate paperwork. When Derek's startup side project failed and he lost $20,000, I helped him restructure his debt without judgment. We were there for each other's victories and failures, the mundane Tuesdays and the milestone moments. We double-dated. We took trips to the Oregon coast, to Seattle, to Vancouver. We talked about buying property together someday, maybe starting our own firm. Our girlfriends at the time joked that we were married to each other. Those girlfriends came and went. The friendship remained. Then, 4 years ago, I met Sienna. Sienna Reed walked into Morrison & Associates on a Tuesday morning in March. She was a newly hired project coordinator, transferred from our Seattle office. 28 years old, with auburn hair she always wore in a professional bun, and green eyes that seemed to notice everything. She was organized, competent, and had this quiet confidence that made her seem older than her years. I was assigned to brief her on our current projects. We spent 3 hours in the conference room, and I remember thinking she asked better questions than most engineers I knew. She wasn't just learning the job, she was learning the logic behind it. "Why do you use this particular steel grade for seismic zones?" she asked, pointing at a specification sheet. "Because it has better ductility," I explained. "In an earthquake, you want materials that can deform without fracturing. Rigidity is actually dangerous." She nodded, making a note. "Flexibility is strength. That's interesting." "It's counterintuitive," I said, "but that's engineering. The best solutions usually are." She looked up at me, then really looked at me, and smiled. I think I'm going to like it here. I definitely liked having her there. Sienna and I started having lunch together. Nothing romantic at first, just two colleagues who enjoyed each other's company. She was easy to talk to, smart, funny in a dry, understated way. She'd grown up in Bend, studied business management at Oregon State, and had worked her way up through administrative roles before finding her niche in project coordination. I like building things, she told me once. Not with my hands, obviously, but being part of the process, making sure all the pieces fit together so something permanent gets created, it feels important. It is important, I said. Most people don't realize how much coordination goes into making a building stand up. You make it sound romantic. Maybe it is. There's something beautiful about forces in balance, she laughed. You're a nerd, Elias Vance. Guilty as charged. Derek noticed us having lunch together and gave me endless shit about it. You going to ask her out or just keep pretending these are professional meetings? He asked one afternoon, leaning against my cubicle wall with that knowing grin. We're just friends, I said, not looking up from my calculations. Right, and I'm just a casual observer who hasn't seen you smile at your phone 6 times today. I don't smile at my phone. You absolutely do. It's adorable and pathetic. He clapped me on the shoulder. Ask her out, man. Life's too short. So I did. Our first official date was at a small Italian place in the Pearl District. We talked for 4 hours, closing down the restaurant. Sienna told me about her childhood dreams of being an architect, how she'd realized she preferred the organizational side of construction. I told her about my father's hardware store, how I'd grown up surrounded by tools and materials, learning that everything had a purpose and a proper application. Your dad sounds like he was a good man, she said. He was. He taught me that craftsmanship matters, that there's dignity in doing things right. Is that why you're so meticulous at work? Probably. I can't stand cutting corners. If something's worth doing, it's worth doing properly. She reached across the table and touched my hand. I really respect that about you. That touch felt like the beginning of something. Sienna met Derek 2 weeks later at a company happy hour. I'd told her all about him, my best friend, my work partner, the brother I'd chosen. She'd been excited to meet him. So you're the famous Derek, she said, shaking his hand. Elias talks about you constantly. Derek turned on the charm as he always did with new people. Only the good stuff, I hope. Mostly stories about college disasters and questionable decisions. Then he's being honest. Good to know. Derek grinned at me. She's great, man. Don't screw this up. I'll try my best, I said. The 3 of us fell into an easy dynamic. Derek and Sienna got along immediately, which made me happy. I'd seen relationships where friends and partners didn't mesh, the constant tension of divided loyalties. But Sienna genuinely enjoyed Derek's humor, and Derek respected Sienna's intelligence. We started hanging out as a trio, dinners, movies, weekend hikes in the Columbia River Gorge. Derek was single at the time, cycling through brief relationships that never seemed to stick. I'm waiting for someone as perfect as Sienna, he'd joke. Set the bar too high, man. There are plenty of great women out there, Sienna would say. You're just too picky. Or not picky enough, Derek would counter. Story of my life. It all felt natural, easy, right. Sienna and I moved in together after 8 months, a small house in Selwood, nothing fancy, but it was ours. Derek helped us move, spending an entire Saturday hauling boxes and furniture. Afterward, we ordered pizza and sat on our new couch exhausted and happy. "To new beginnings," Derek said, raising his beer. "To good friends," Sienna added. "To both," I said. We clinked bottles, and I remember thinking, this is what happiness looks like. This is what I've been building toward. 2 years later, I proposed to Sienna on a beach near Cannon Beach. Simple, private, just the two of us and the Pacific Ocean. She said yes before I finished asking the question. Derek was the first person I called. "About damn time," he said. "I've been waiting for this. I'm thinking we need to plan the most legendary bachelor party Oregon has ever seen." "Nothing too crazy," I said. "You know I'm not that guy." "Elias, buddy, best friend, you're only getting married once. Let me do this for you." "Fine. But nothing illegal." "I'm offended you even have to specify that." Looking back now, I can see that this was when the performance really began, when the masks they'd been wearing became perfect, undetectable, when my best friend and my fiancée became something else entirely, right in front of me, and I was too blind to see it. The engagement period was a blur of wedding planning. Sienna handled most of it with her characteristic efficiency, creating spreadsheets and timelines that would have made a project manager weep with joy. I focused on work, pulling long hours on a major hospital renovation that had become my primary project. Derek and I saw each other less during this period, which felt natural. I was busy, he was busy, life was moving forward. But we still made time for our regular Thursday lunches, a tradition we'd maintained for years. We'd go to the same sandwich shop on Morrison Street, catch up on work gossip, talk about projects and office politics. "How's the hospital renovation going?" Derek asked. One Thursday, about 2 months before the wedding. "Complicated. The existing structure has issues we didn't anticipate. Foundation settling some water damage in the basement levels. We're having to redesign the support system." Classic. Nothing's ever as simple as the original plans. "Never is. How's the Riverside project? Moving forward?" "Client's happy. I'm angling to lead the next phase." He paused, studying his sandwich. "Actually, I wanted to ask you something. Would you be okay if I worked more closely with Sienna on some upcoming projects? Jenkins mentioned he wants to pair project coordinators with specific engineers, create more integrated teams." "Of course. You two work well together anyway." "Yeah, she's great at her job. Very organized." Derek took a bite, casual. "I just wanted to check with you first, make sure there's no weirdness." "Why would there be weirdness?" "I don't know, man. Some guys get territorial about their fiancés working with their friends." I laughed. "I'm not that guy. Sienna can work with whoever. I trust both of you." "Good to hear," Derek smiled, "because honestly, she's one of the best coordinators we have. I'd be lucky to have her on my projects." "I trust both of you." Those words would come back to haunt me. The bachelor party weekend was Derek's masterpiece. He'd planned a 3-day trip to Bend, craft breweries, golf, hiking, all the classic bachelor party activities minus the strip clubs. I'd been clear about my boundaries and Derek had respected them. Or so I thought. 8 of my closest friends made the trip. We rented a large cabin outside a town, spent the days exploring and the nights playing poker and drinking too much. It was exactly what I'd wanted, low-key, fun, a chance to bond with my friends before the wedding. Derek was the perfect host, making sure everyone was having a good time, orchestrating activities, keeping the energy high. On the second night, after a long day of golfing and brewery tours, we gathered around the cabin's fire pit. "To Elias," Derek said, raising his glass, "the best friend a guy could ask for, the most honest man I know, you deserve every happiness, brother." Everyone echoed the sentiment. I felt genuinely moved. "Thanks, man," I said. "And thank you for putting all this together. It's been incredible." "Anything for you," Derek said, and he sounded like he meant it. That night, I went to bed early, exhausted from the day's activities and slightly drunk. I remember Derek saying he was going to stay up with a few guys, maybe drive into town for late-night food. I waved them off, stumbled to my room, and passed out almost immediately. I didn't know that Derek drove 40 minutes back to Portland that night. I didn't know he let himself into my house with the spare key I'd given him years ago. I didn't know he spent 3 hours in my bed with my fiancée while I slept soundly in a cabin, surrounded by friends, celebrating my upcoming marriage. I wouldn't know any of this for 3 more months. The wedding was perfect. Everything Sienna had planned came together flawlessly. The venue, a restored barn in wine country, looked like something from a magazine. The weather cooperated, our families mixed well, the food was excellent, the band kept people dancing all night. Derek's best man speech was a hit. He told funny stories from college, embarrassing but endearing anecdotes about our friendship, and ended with a heartfelt toast about finding the right person and building a life worth living. "Elias is the most loyal, dedicated, genuine person I've ever known," Derek said, looking directly at me. "Sienna, you're marrying a man who will never let you down, who will always put you first, who will build you a life as solid as the buildings he designs." The room erupted in applause. Sienna squeezed my hand, tears in her eyes. I hugged Derek, feeling emotional and grateful and blessed. "Love you, brother," I said. "Love you too, man." 2 months later, I found the envelope. I was working late at the office, finishing up documentation for the hospital project. Everyone else had gone home. The building was quiet except for the hum of fluorescent lights and the occasional creak of the old HVAC system. When I finally packed up around 9 p.m., I noticed something on my desk that hadn't been there that morning. A white envelope, no markings except my name, written in unfamiliar handwriting. I almost threw it away, assuming it was some kind of junk mail or marketing thing that had bypassed our receptionist. But something made me open it. Inside was a photograph, printed on regular paper. It showed Sienna's car, her distinctive blue Honda CR-V, with the dent in the rear bumper from where she'd backed into a pole 2 years ago, parked in front of a hotel. The image quality suggested it had been taken from a distance, maybe with a zoom lens. Beneath the photo was a receipt, the Timberline Lodge, Bend, Oregon. Date, the weekend of my bachelor party. Room 237, 2-night stay. My brain tried to rationalize it. Maybe Sienna had driven to Bend for some reason. Maybe this was a weird coincidence. Maybe someone was playing a prank. But I'm an engineer. I'm trained to follow evidence. And the evidence was pointing to something I didn't want to believe. I pulled out my phone and checked Sienna's location history from that weekend. We shared locations with each other, a practical thing for a couple, nothing sinister. I'd never had a reason to check before. The weekend of my bachelor party, Sienna's phone had pinged in Portland the entire time. At our house, she told me she was having a quiet weekend, catching up on wedding planning and seeing friends. But her car had been in Bend. I sat at my desk for an hour, staring at the photograph, trying to make it make sense. Then I drove home in a daze. Sienna was watching TV in the living room when I walked in. She looked up, smiling. "You're home late. Long day?" "Yeah." I sat down next to her, the envelope in my jacket pocket, feeling like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "Hey, random question. What did you do the weekend of my bachelor party?" "Hmm?" She frowned, thinking. "Oh, I think I just hung out here, worked on wedding stuff, had brunch with Katie on Sunday." "Why?" "Just curious. Seems like forever ago." "It does." She leaned against me. "Best decision I ever made, though, marrying you." I put my arm around her, feeling numb. Same. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay next to my wife, listening to her breathe, and felt the first crack in my foundation. I'm not a confrontational person by nature. I'm methodical, careful. I don't make accusations without proof. So I didn't say anything to Sienna, not yet. Instead, I started gathering data. I called the Timberline Lodge the next day, pretending to be a guest who'd stayed there and needed a copy of my receipt for expense reporting. I gave them the date and room number from the receipt in the envelope. "Can you confirm the name on the reservation?" the clerk asked. "Derek Hartwell," I said, my voice steady, despite the hammering of my heart. "Yes, I see that reservation. 2 night stay, check-in Friday, check-out Sunday. Would you like me to email the receipt?" "No, that's okay. I found my copy. Thank you." I hung up and sat in my car in the parking lot, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Derek, my best friend. The man who'd been my brother for 15 years, but I still didn't have proof that Sienna had been with him. The car could have been a coincidence. Maybe she'd lent it to someone. Maybe I was jumping to conclusions. I needed more information. Over the next week, I became someone I'd never been before, a detective, a spy in my own life. I installed a recovery program on my laptop at home and restored deleted files from Sienna's user profile. I found nothing significant, just normal correspondence, work emails, shopping lists. I checked our credit card statements going back 6 months. Everything looked normal, no suspicious charges, no hotel stays, no unexplained expenses. I was starting to think maybe I was wrong. Maybe the envelope was some cruel prank. Maybe I was destroying my own happiness with paranoia. Then I checked our phone records. I'd never looked at them before. Why would I? I trusted my wife, but I logged into our carrier's website and pulled up the detailed billing from the past year. Sienna and Derek texted constantly, multiple times a day, every day. Way more than seemed normal for a work relationship, even for colleagues who worked closely together. I pulled Derek's number and cross-referenced the times, early morning texts, late night texts, texts sent while I was in the office, while I was traveling for work, while I was sitting right next to Sienna on the couch. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through month after month of constant communication. Then I saw it, a pattern. Every time I'd traveled for work over the past year, there was a spike in texts between Sienna and Derek, sometimes 50, 60 messages in a single day. And these were just the texts. The calls weren't itemized beyond duration. I cross-referenced my work travel calendar with Sienna's location history. Every time I was out of town, Sienna's phone stayed at our house until around 9 or 10 p.m., then went dark for several hours. It would reappear at our address in the early morning. She'd been turning off her phone. Not every night I was gone, just some nights, enough to establish a pattern. I pulled up Derek's address from our company directory. His apartment was a 12-minute drive from our house. I sat in my home office, surrounded by spreadsheets and phone records and location data, and felt my entire world disintegrate into numbers that told a story I'd been too blind to see. I confronted Sienna on a Tuesday night, 2 weeks after finding the envelope. She was cooking dinner, pasta with marinara sauce, garlic bread, a green salad. Domestic, normal, the kind of scene that happens in a million homes every night. "Can we talk?" I said, standing in the kitchen doorway. "Of course." She didn't look up from stirring the sauce. "What's up?" I put my phone on the counter, the phone records pulled up on the screen. "Want to explain why you and Derek text each other 60 times a day?" Her hand froze mid-stir. For just a second, her face went blank. Then she recovered, turning to face me with a confused expression. "What are you talking about?" I pulled our phone records. You and Derek message constantly, early morning, late night, while I'm sitting right next to you. Elias, we work together. We're coordinating projects. That's literally my job. At 11 p.m., at 6 in the morning. Sometimes work questions come up at odd hours. Her voice was calm, reasonable. "Why are you going through phone records?" I pulled out the envelope and put it next to the phone. "Someone sent me this." Sienna picked up the photograph, her face unreadable. "Where did you get this?" "Someone left it on my desk. That's your car, at a hotel in Bend, the weekend of my bachelor party." "Okay, this is insane." She put the photo down. "You think I drove to Bend? Why would I do that?" "You tell me." "I didn't drive to Bend, Elias. I was here all weekend. You can ask Katie. We had brunch on Sunday." "Your car was photographed in Bend." "Then someone's messing with you?" Her voice rose, genuine-sounding anger flooding in. "This is crazy. You're accusing me, based on some random photograph someone mysteriously left on your desk? Do you hear yourself?" I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her so badly. "Why do you turn off your phone when I travel?" I asked quietly. "What?" "Every time I'm out of town for work, your location goes dark for hours at a time. You turn off your phone." She stared at me. "I don't... Elias, what's happening right now? Why are you tracking my location? Why are you going through our private records? This isn't like you." "Answer the question." "I don't turn off my phone. Maybe the location glitches sometimes. I don't know. This is insane." She moved toward me, her eyes welling with tears. "Baby, someone is clearly trying to mess with your head, with our marriage, and it's working. Just tell me the truth," I said. "Were you with Derek that weekend?" "No, Elias, no, I love you. How can you even think?" She broke down crying, and I felt like the worst person in the world. Maybe she was right. Maybe someone was messing with me. Maybe I was losing my mind, destroying my marriage over paranoia and circumstantial evidence. I held her while she cried, and I apologized for doubting her, and I promised I'd drop it. But I didn't drop it. I couldn't. The next day at work, I approached Derek's desk during lunch, when most of the office was empty. "Got a minute?" I asked. "For you? Always." He gestured to the empty chair beside his desk. "What's up?" I sat down, watching his face carefully. Someone's been sending me weird stuff, photos, receipts, trying to make it look like Sienna was in bed during my bachelor party weekend. Derek's expression shifted to concern so smoothly it would have been convincing if I hadn't been looking for it. What? That's messed up. Who would do that? I don't know, but I wanted to ask you, did you see her car that weekend? Any chance she drove up for some reason I don't know about? Man, I was focused on making sure you had a good time. I honestly don't remember seeing her car. He paused. But even if she had driven up, so what? Maybe she wanted to check on you, make sure I wasn't getting you into trouble. Maybe. Elias. Derek leaned forward, his voice dropping to a concerned, brotherly tone. Someone's fucking with you. This is classic. Trying to create doubts, wreck your marriage right after the wedding. Don't let them win. You're probably right. I know I'm right. Sienna loves you, man. She's crazy about you. Anyone with eyes can see that. I nodded, stood up. Thanks, Derek. I just needed to hear it from someone else. Anytime, brother. Anytime. As I walked back to my desk, I replayed the conversation in my head. Derek's micro-expressions, the slight hesitation before his concern kicked in, the way he'd immediately worked to reassure me, to redirect my suspicions. He was good, but I'm better at reading stress patterns in structures, and people aren't that different from buildings. Apply enough pressure, and you can see where the weak points are. Derek had just showed me his. I needed proof, real, undeniable proof. I spent the next week researching surveillance equipment. I ordered a small camera designed to look like a phone charger, the kind private investigators use for insurance fraud cases. I set it up in our bedroom, angled to capture the bed and the door. I hated myself for doing it. This wasn't who I was. I didn't spy on my wife. I didn't plant cameras in my own home. But I also couldn't live with the questions eating away at my sanity. 2 weeks later, I had to travel to Sacramento for a 3-day conference on seismic retrofitting. I told Sienna about the trip a month in advance, watched her make a note in her calendar. The night before I left, she was extra affectionate. We made love, and she held me afterward like she didn't want to let go. I'll miss you, she said. It's just 3 days. I know, still. She kissed my shoulder. Be safe. Always am. I left early Thursday morning, drove to the airport, went through security. Then I turned around, went back to my car, and drove home. I parked 3 blocks away and walked back to my house. It was 7:30 a.m. Sienna's car was in the driveway. She'd be getting ready for work. I didn't go inside. Instead, I went to a coffee shop, opened my laptop, and accessed the camera feed. I watched Sienna get ready for work, moving through our bedroom with the easy familiarity of routine. She left at 8:15, right on schedule. I spent the day at the coffee shop, periodically checking the feed. Nothing, just an empty bedroom. I really was losing my mind. At 6 p.m., Sienna came home. I watched her change out of her work clothes, put on yoga pants and a t-shirt. She made dinner, ate while watching TV. Around 9 p.m., she went to bed. I was about to close my laptop when I saw her phone light up on the nightstand. She grabbed it, read something, and her entire posture changed. She got out of bed, went to the closet, and changed into jeans and a nice top. She fixed her hair, put on makeup. At 9:47 p.m., she left the house. My hands were shaking as I waited. I knew what was coming, but knowing and seeing are different things. At 10:23 p.m., my bedroom door opened. Derek walked in, followed by Sienna. They were laughing about something, casual, comfortable, like they'd done this 100 times before. Derek looked around the bedroom, my bedroom, the room I shared with my wife, and said something that made Sienna laugh again. She pushed him playfully, and he grabbed her, pulled her close, kissed her. It wasn't a hesitant kiss. It wasn't the kiss of new lovers exploring boundaries. It was the kiss of two people who knew each other's bodies intimately. They fell into my bed together and I closed my laptop. I sat in that coffee shop for 3 hours, unable to move, unable to think, unable to process what I'd just seen. My wife, my best friend, in my bed. How long had this been going on? Months? Years? I thought about every interaction, every moment I'd trusted them, every time they'd looked me in the eye and lied. The bachelor party weekend suddenly made perfect sense. Derek had orchestrated the whole thing, made sure I was far away, properly drunk and accounted for, while he drove back to Portland and spent the night with my fiancée in the bed we shared. Someone had seen them. Someone had taken that photograph, sent me that envelope. Someone had tried to warn me, but I'd been too trusting, too loyal, too fucking blind. I didn't go home that night. I checked into a hotel near the airport and sat in the dark room, staring at nothing. My phone buzzed with a text from Sienna. "Miss you. Hope the conference is going well. Love you." I stared at those words until they lost all meaning. Around 3 a.m., something shifted inside me. The shock and pain crystallized into something colder, harder. I'd spent 15 years building a friendship with Derek, 3 years building a relationship with Sienna. I'd given them my trust, my loyalty, my love. I'd made them central to my life, believing I was building something permanent. But I'd built on a faulty foundation. And buildings on faulty foundations don't just crack, they collapse catastrophically. So I would help them collapse, but not yet, not in a way they'd see coming. I'm an engineer. I understand load-bearing structures, stress points, controlled demolition. If you want to bring down a building properly, you don't just start swinging a wrecking ball. You study it, you understand it, you identify the critical supports, you weaken them systematically, you wait for the perfect moment. Then you remove one small piece and gravity does the rest. I opened my laptop and started a new spreadsheet. At the top I typed, "Project Demolition." Then I began to plan. The next morning I went to the conference. I attended panels, took notes, networked with other engineers. I kept my phone on, responded to Sienna's texts with normal pleasantries. "Miss you too. Conference is boring but informative. Love you. Can't wait to be home." Each message felt like swallowing glass, but I sent them anyway. That evening, I checked the camera feed. Derek came over again. Same routine, same casual intimacy, same violation of my home, my marriage, my trust. I documented it all. Timestamps, screenshots, video files backed up to an encrypted cloud drive, evidence. When I returned home Sunday evening, Sienna greeted me at the door with a hug and a kiss. "I missed you so much," she said. "Missed you too?" I held her, smelling Derek's cologne faintly on her skin. "How was your weekend?" "Quiet. Just hung out, caught up on some reading. Katie came over yesterday for brunch." Lie after lie after lie, delivered with perfect sincerity. "Sounds nice," I said. That night, we had sex. She was enthusiastic, affectionate, seemingly genuine. I performed my role, said the right things, held her afterward. Inside, I was already gone. Monday morning at work, Derek stopped by my desk with coffee, like he'd done 1,000 times before. "Welcome back, man. How was Sacramento?" "Productive. Lots of good information on retrofitting techniques." "Nice. Hey, you want to grab lunch Thursday? Feel like we haven't had a proper catch-up in a while." I smiled. "Absolutely. Thursday sounds perfect." Thursday, we sat in our usual booth at the sandwich shop. Derek talked about a new project he was pitching, a residential complex on the east side. I listened, asked questions, gave feedback. "You should talk to Sienna about the coordination," I suggested. "She'd be perfect for something this size." "Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. She's really stepped up lately." "She has. I'm lucky to have her." "We're both lucky," Derek said. "You've got an amazing wife. I've got a great friend and colleague. Life's pretty good." It really is. I watched him eat his sandwich, this man I'd loved like a brother, and felt nothing but cold calculation. Over the next month, I maintained perfect normalcy, loving husband, loyal friend, dedicated colleague. But I was also gathering intelligence. I created a detailed timeline of every work trip I'd taken in the past 2 years, cross-referenced with Sienna's location data and our home security camera footage. The pattern was undeniable. Every trip, within hours of my departure, Derek would arrive. I pulled financial records for both Derek and Sienna. No smoking gun, but some interesting patterns. Derek had been taking cash advances on his credit cards, small amounts, nothing suspicious individually, but they added up. Sienna had a separate credit card I'd never known about, used primarily for purchases at a boutique hotel in northwest Portland. The same hotel every few weeks going back almost 2 years. 2 years! They'd been doing this for 2 years. I'd proposed to Sienna 18 months ago, married her 6 months ago. The entire foundation of my marriage had been a lie. I began documenting everything about Derek's work. I had access to project files, client communications, budget reports. I reviewed them all, looking for leverage. Derek was brilliant, but brilliant people often cut corners. They're so confident in their abilities that they don't think the details matter. I found them in the Riverside project, the one Derek had been leading, the one he'd worked on with Sienna. He'd been inflating hours, not dramatically, just enough that it wouldn't trigger immediate red flags. An extra 5 hours here, 10 hours there, spread across multiple billing periods. Over the course of the project, he'd fraudulently billed the client for approximately $60,000. Sienna had signed off on the timesheets as project coordinator. Whether she'd known they were inflated or just trusted Derek's reporting, I couldn't tell. But her signature was on the documentation. I made copies of everything, stored them securely. Then I looked at the structural plans Derek had submitted for a new shopping complex in Beaverton. This was his showcase project, the one that was supposed to cement his reputation. I spent 3 nights reviewing the calculations. Derek's brilliant vision had overlooked some mundane realities, specifically the soil composition reports. The foundation design assumed uniform load-bearing capacity, but the geotechnical surveys showed significant variation across the site. The building wouldn't collapse, but it would settle unevenly, dramatically. Within 5 years, you'd see major cracking, structural stress, possibly dangerous conditions. It was the kind of mistake that ends careers. I documented it all, prepared a detailed engineering report showing the oversight, the potential consequences, a correction that would need to be made. Then I waited. Patience is the hardest part of any controlled demolition. You have to resist the urge to act immediately, to release your rage in a single explosive moment. But I'd learned from building structures. You don't rush the foundation work. You prepare thoroughly. You wait for the right conditions. I traveled for work 2 more times over the next 6 weeks. Each time, I documented Derek's visits to my house. Each time, I smiled and texted my wife that I missed her. I had dinner with Derek and Sienna together, the 3 of us laughing like old friends. I took photos, posted them on social media. Grateful for these 2, I captioned one. My partner and my best friend. Sienna commented with a heart emoji. Derek commented, "Love you, brother." I went to Derek's apartment for poker night with our college friends. I drank his beer, sat on his couch, listened to him talk about his career ambitions. I'm thinking in another 5 years I could start my own firm, he said. Focus on high-end residential. I've got the reputation now. You definitely do, I agreed. You've built something impressive. Couldn't have done it without you, man. You've always had my back. Always, I said. I went home and added another entry to my demolition timeline. The perfect moment came in late October, 8 months after I'd found the envelope. Morrison & Associates was preparing for its annual performance reviews and partnership considerations. Senior management evaluated projects, client satisfaction, revenue generation, and professional conduct. Derek was being considered for junior partner. It was everything he'd been working toward: equity, stake in the firm, his name on the letterhead, significant salary increase. Sienna had just been promoted to senior project coordinator with a path to project manager. Their careers were ascending. Their relationship was thriving. They thought they'd gotten away with it. I scheduled a meeting with Richard Morrison, the firm's founding partner, and Patricia Chen, our head of operations. Thank you for seeing me, I said, sitting down in Morrison's office. I need to report some serious concerns about the Riverside project and the Beaverton shopping complex. I presented my documentation methodically: the inflated billing, the structural oversights in the foundation design, the falsified timesheets. Morrison's face grew darker as he reviewed the evidence. These are serious allegations, Elias, he said quietly. I know. That's why I made sure I was absolutely certain before bringing them to you. How long have you known about this? I discovered the billing irregularities about 6 weeks ago. The structural issues became apparent when I reviewed the latest site surveys. Patricia Chen looked at me carefully. Why didn't you go to Derek first? Talk to him about this? Because this isn't a miscommunication or an honest mistake. This is systematic fraud and professional negligence. Derek is my friend. I let my voice catch slightly, perfectly calibrated. But I have an ethical obligation to the firm and to public safety. Morrison nodded slowly. You understand this will likely end Derek's career? I understand, but if that building is constructed as designed, people could be hurt. I can't let that happen, regardless of my personal relationships. And Ms. Reed signed off on these timesheets? She did. I don't know if she was aware they were inflated. That's something you'll need to investigate. They thanked me for my integrity and courage. told me how much the firm valued engineers who prioritized ethics over friendship. I left that meeting and went to the bathroom, locked myself in a stall, and finally allowed myself to feel the savage satisfaction of watching the first support beam crumble. Derek was called into Morrison's office the next day. I watched from my desk as he walked past, confident and smiling, probably assuming it was about the partnership. He was in there for 45 minutes. When he emerged, his face was grey. He went directly to his desk, started pulling personal items into a box. Sienna appeared at his cubicle, concerned. They spoke in low voices. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I saw Derek shake his head, saw Sienna put her hand on his arm. Morrison's assistant appeared. "Ms. Reed, they'd like to see you now." Sienna went pale. I kept my head down, focused on my work, as the woman I'd married was called in to explain her role in falsifying company documents. Derek was fired that day. Sienna was suspended pending investigation. I sent Derek a text that evening.
"Man, I just heard. What happened? Are you okay?" He didn't respond. I texted Sienna. "Just talk to HR. They wouldn't tell me anything except you're on leave. What's going on?" She called me, crying. "Elias, it's a nightmare. They're saying I falsified timesheets, that I helped Derek defraud a client." "What? That's insane. Did you?" "No, I signed off on his hours, but I trusted his reporting. I didn't know he was inflating them. Why would he do this to me?" Interesting question, I thought. Why would he? "I don't know, honey. I'm so sorry. What can I do?" "Just come home. Please, I need you." I drove home. I held my crying wife. I assured her everything would be okay, all while knowing exactly what was coming next. The investigation took 3 weeks. During that time, Derek tried to contact me repeatedly. I ignored his calls for the first week, then finally answered. "Elias, thank God, I need to talk to you. This whole thing is a misunderstanding." "Derek, I can't talk to you about this. My lawyer advised me not to discuss any active investigations." "Your lawyer? Why do you need a lawyer?" "The firm asked me to document what I knew about your projects. I'm a material witness. I have to protect myself." "You told them? You went to Morrison?" I let silence stretch. "Jesus Christ, Elias, I'm your best friend." "I thought so too," I said quietly. "But then I saw the evidence, Derek. The billing fraud, the structural problems. I couldn't ignore it." "There's no structural problems. That building is sound." "The geotechnical surveys say otherwise. You know that. You just hoped no one would notice until after construction was complete. You're supposed to have my back. I'm supposed to protect public safety and professional integrity. That comes before friendship." "Fuck you, Elias. Seriously, fuck you." He hung up. I sat in my car, holding the phone, and smiled. The firm's investigation concluded that Derek had
systematically defrauded the Riverside client and submitted structurally deficient plans for the Beaverton project. Sienna had signed off on fraudulent timesheets, but, they determined, likely without knowledge of the fraud. She was demoted and placed on probation. Derek was fired and reported to the State Engineering Board. The board launched their own investigation. Derek's professional license was suspended pending review. Without a license, he couldn't work as an engineer. His career was over. The Riverside client, upon learning of the fraud, threatened legal action. Derek would likely face civil suits and possibly criminal charges. Everything he'd built for 15 years, gone, but I wasn't done. Sienna spiraled into depression after the investigation. She'd gone from rising star to probationary employee, her reputation damaged, her career trajectory destroyed. "I trusted him," she told me one night, crying in our bedroom. "I trusted Derek completely. How could he?"
Do this to me. The irony was almost too perfect. "I don't know," I said, holding her. "Some people aren't who we think they are." I feel so stupid, so betrayed. You're not stupid, you're loyal. You give people the benefit of the doubt. That's not a weakness. She clung to me. "What would I do without you? You're the only person I can trust." I stroked her hair, my touch gentle and loving. "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." A week later, I suggested couples counseling. "I think all this stress is affecting us," I said. "I want to make sure we're okay." "We are okay, aren't we?" "Of course. But it couldn't hurt to talk to someone, make sure we're processing everything healthily." She agreed. I chose the therapist carefully. Dr. Sarah Whitman, a psychologist who specialized in marriage counseling and infidelity recovery. Our first session was about building trust and communication. Dr. Whitman asked about our relationship history, how we'd met, what we valued. Sienna
Talked about how I was her rock, her safe place, the person she could always count on. "Elias is the most honest person I know," she said. "He's incapable of lying." I smiled and squeezed her hand. In our third session, Dr. Whitman asked about trust. "Have either of you ever felt that trust was violated in your relationship?" "No," Sienna said immediately. "Never." I hesitated just long enough to be noticeable. "Elias," Dr. Whitman prompted. "There was something," I said slowly. "I don't know if it's worth bringing up." Sienna turned to me, confused. "What do you mean?" "After the wedding, someone sent me this anonymous package, photos and receipts suggesting you'd been in Bend during my bachelor party weekend." Sienna's face went white. "I confronted you about it, and you said it was someone messing with us. And I believed you. But I never really understood who would do that, or why." "What kind of photos?" Dr. Whitman asked. I pulled out my phone, showed her the photograph of Sienna's car at the hotel. "This," and a receipt showing a room booked under Derek's name. Sienna was shaking. "Elias, we talked about this." I explained. "I know what you said, but we're supposed to be honest here, right? And honestly, I never got a real explanation. Your car was photographed at a hotel where Derek had a room the same weekend I was out of town." "You think I was with Derek?" Her voice was high, panicked. "I don't know what to think. That's why I'm bringing it up here, with a professional who can help us work through it." Dr. Whitman looked at Sienna carefully. "Can you explain how your car ended up in Bend that weekend?" "I don't know. Maybe it wasn't my car. Maybe someone photoshopped it." "It's clearly your car," I said gently. "The dent in the bumper is visible. The license plate is partially readable. Then someone borrowed it. I don't know." "Who would have borrowed it without asking?" "I don't fucking know, Elias." The session devolved from there. Sienna became increasingly defensive, her explanations increasingly desperate. Dr. Whitman, to her credit, didn't push too hard, but she assigned us homework, an exercise in radical honesty. "I want both of you to think about whether there's anything you haven't told each other, anything you've kept secret, even with good intentions. Next session, we'll create a safe space to share those things." I nodded seriously. "I think that's a great idea." Sienna looked like she might be sick. Over the next week, Sienna's behavior changed. She became clingy, anxious, constantly seeking reassurance. "You know I love you, right?" she'd say randomly. "Of course." "And you love me?" "More than anything." "We're going to get through this, aren't we? The work stuff, the stress, everything?" "We're going to be fine," I'd assure her, while planning the next phase. I started working late more often. When Sienna would text, asking when I'd be home, I'd respond
vaguely. Soon, finishing up a project. I'd return home at 10 or 11 p.m., apologetic but distant. "Is everything okay?" she'd ask. "Yeah, just stressed about work. Sorry." I stopped initiating sex. When she initiated, I'd respond, but without enthusiasm. "Are you mad at me?" she asked one night. "No, just tired." But I could see the fear in her eyes, the uncertainty. Our next therapy session, Dr. Whitman asked if we'd thought about the radical honesty exercise. "I have," I said, "and I think there's something I need to say." Sienna grabbed my hand. "What is it?" I took a breath. "I've been struggling with trust issues since that envelope arrived, and I've noticed patterns that concern me. Your phone location turning off when I travel, the constant texting with Derek, the fact that you got so defensive about the Bend situation instead of being curious about who would try to sabotage us." "Elias." "Let him finish," Dr. Whitman said gently. "I want to trust you. I want
to believe in us. But I need complete honesty. If something happened with Derek, anything, I need to know, because the not knowing is worse than the truth could ever be." Sienna was crying now. "Nothing happened. I swear to God, nothing happened." "Okay," I said softly. "Okay." But I could see the doubt in Dr. Whitman's eyes. She'd been doing this long enough to recognize the signs. After that session, I escalated. I started finding excuses to mention Derek in conversation. "I heard through the office grapevine that Derek's struggling to find work. No one will hire him without a valid license." "That's awful," Sienna would say. "Is it? I mean, he committed fraud. That has consequences." "I know, but I feel bad for him." "Why? He destroyed your career too." "He didn't mean to." "How do you know what he meant?" These conversations would end with Sienna upset and me apologizing for being harsh. I suggested we change our locks, claiming I'd heard about break-ins in the neighborhood. "Don't you think that's paranoid?" Sienna asked. "I just want us to be safe. Derek has a key, remember? We gave him one years ago for emergencies." "Derek would never—" "Wouldn't he? He lied about billing. He put your job at risk. Why would we trust him with access to our home?" We changed the locks. I replaced our bedroom furniture, claiming I wanted a fresh start after all the stress. "But I love our bed," Sienna protested. "I know, but every time I look at it lately, I think about that photo, about Derek having a hotel room the same weekend. I can't explain it, but I need something to feel different." She helped me pick out new furniture, crying the whole time. By December, Sienna was a shadow of herself. Anxious, depressed, clinging to me desperately while I remained just distant enough to keep her off balance. Derek tried to contact me one last time in mid-December. I met him at a coffee shop. He looked terrible, unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, 20 pounds thinner. "I'm losing everything," he said. "My license, my career, my savings are gone from legal fees. I might face criminal charges. Elias, please, you have to help me. Tell Morrison you made a mistake, that you misinterpreted the data." I can't do that. We're brothers. You're my best friend. Were, I corrected. Past tense. He stared at me. What happened to you? I grew up. I learned that trust has to be earned, that loyalty goes both ways. I've always been loyal to you. I almost laughed. Have you? Something in my tone made him pause. What does that mean? It means I know people aren't always who they pretend to be. That sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who betray you most deeply. You're talking in riddles. Am I? I stood up. Good luck, Derek. I hope you figure things out. Elias, wait! But I was already walking away. Christmas was bleak. Sienna tried to make it festive, decorating the house, planning a nice dinner. But the strain between us was palpable. Can we talk about what's happening? She asked on Christmas Eve. What do you mean? You've been different since that therapy session, distant, cold. If you have something to ask me, just ask. I looked at her, this woman I'd loved, who I'd built a life with, who'd betrayed me in the most fundamental way possible. Did you sleep with Derek? The question hung in the air like smoke. Sienna's face crumbled. How? Why would you? Just answer the question. No, I didn't. You're lying. I'm not. I've seen the location data, Sienna. Every time I traveled, your phone went dark, and you ended up at Derek's apartment. I've seen the hotel charges. I've put it all together. She was sobbing now. You're wrong. You're seeing patterns that aren't there because you're stressed and paranoid. Am I paranoid, or am I finally seeing clearly? Nothing happened. I love you. Only you. I stood up. I'm going for a drive. I'll be back later. I left her there, crying in our living room surrounded by Christmas decorations, and drove to a hotel. I didn't go back home for 3 days. When I returned, Sienna was a wreck. She'd barely slept, barely eaten. She grabbed me at the door, hysterical. I thought you left me. I thought you were gone. I needed space to think. About what? About us? About everything. Elias, please don't leave me. I can't lose you. You're all I have left. And there it was. The complete dependence, the total emotional reliance on me. Everything she used to share with Derek, she now invested in me alone. I held her while she sobbed. I'm not leaving, but things need to change. Anything. I'll do anything. I need complete transparency. Passwords to your accounts. Location sharing, always on. Total honesty about where you are and who you're with. Of course. Yes, whatever you need. And I think we should move. Start fresh. Somewhere new, maybe Seattle or even California. Get away from all the bad memories here. Move. But my job? You're on probation anyway. And I can get a position anywhere. We need a fresh start, Sienna. Away from Derek, away from the firm, away from everything that's been poisoning us. She nodded against my chest. Okay, if that's what you think is best. It is. Over the next month, I orchestrated our departure from Portland. I interviewed for positions in San Francisco, received multiple offers, accepted one at a prestigious firm. Sienna resigned from Morrison & Associates. No one was sorry to see her go. We put the house on the market, started packing up our life. Through all of it, I maintained perfect control, loving but slightly distant, supportive but with undertones of hurt. Sienna scrambled to prove her devotion. She gave me all her passwords. She checked in constantly. She cut off all contact with Derek. Not that he'd been trying to reach her anyway. He'd moved back to Ohio last I heard, working at his uncle's construction company. No license, no career, no future in engineering. Our last night in Portland, I took Sienna to dinner at a nice restaurant downtown. "I want to thank you," I said, raising my glass. "For what?" "For being willing to start over, for fighting for us. I know this year has been hell." "It has, but we survived it." "We did." I paused. "I need to tell you something." Her face went pale. "What?" "I forgive you." "Forgive me? For what?" "For whatever happened with Derek. I don't need to know the details. I don't need a confession. I'm choosing to forgive and move forward." Sienna started crying. "Nothing happened. I swear to you." "Shh, it's okay. We're okay." I reached across the table and took her hand. "We're going to have a great life in San Francisco. New city, new opportunities, new beginning." She squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. "I love you so much." "I love you too." The lie came, easier than breathing. We moved to San Francisco in February. I started my new position at Berkshire Engineering, one of the top structural firms on the West Coast. Sienna found work as a coordinator at a much smaller firm, a significant step down from her trajectory at Morrison and Associates, but she didn't complain. We settled into a small apartment in the Mission District, started building a new routine. Everything seemed fine on the surface. We went to work, came home, cooked dinner together, watched TV. We made friends with neighbors. We explored the city on weekends. But I made sure to maintain just enough distance to keep her anxious. I'd come home late sometimes without explanation. I'd be absorbed in my phone, dismissive when she asked what I was doing. I'd turn down sex occasionally, citing stress or fatigue. "Is everything okay?" she'd ask. "Fine, just adjusting to the new job." But she could feel it, the gap between us, the space where certainty used to be. In April, I told her I needed to travel to Portland for a deposition. "The Riverside fraud case is going to trial. They need my testimony." "Do you have to go?" "I'm a key witness. I don't have a choice." "How long will you be gone?" "Just 2 days." The night before I left, Sienna was visibly anxious. "I'll miss you," she said. "It's 2 days." "I know, still." I kissed her forehead. "I'll be back before you know it." I did go to Portland. I did give my deposition, 3 hours of detailed testimony about Derek's fraud and negligence. But I also did something else. I went to the hotel where Sienna had met Derek, the boutique place in northwest Portland. I'd called ahead, explained I was investigating a personal matter, asked to speak with their security manager. "I need to verify whether my wife stayed here on specific dates," I explained, showing my marriage certificate and ID. The manager was sympathetic. "I can check our records." I gave him the dates from the credit card statements, a dozen occasions over 18 months. He pulled up the reservations. "Yes, Ms. Reed stayed here on these dates, always the same room, always checking in around 10 p.m. and out by 6 a.m. Was she alone?" "I can't say for certain, sir." "But the room was booked for 2 guests. Do you have security footage?" "Not from that long ago. We only keep footage for 90 days. "Of course." I thanked him, gave him my card. "If you remember anything else, please call me." He looked at me with pity. "I'm sorry you're going through this, sir." "Thank you." I left the hotel with the confirmation I'd needed. Not that I doubted it, but having the manager confirm it, having the documentary evidence, made it real in a different way. Sienna had been meeting Derek at that hotel for 1.5 years, dozens of times, while living with me, while planning our wedding, while promising to love and honor me. Every lie she'd told me was documented now, every deception catalogued. When I returned to San Francisco, I was different with Sienna, warmer, more affectionate. "I missed you so much," I said, holding her close. "I missed you too. How was Portland?" "Depressing, but being back here with you makes everything better." She relaxed into me, relieved. Over the next few weeks, I was the perfect husband again, attentive, loving, present. I took her to nice dinners. We had long conversations about our future. I initiated sex frequently, made her feel desired. "This feels like us again," she said one night. "Like how we used to be." "It does," I agreed. "I think moving here was the right choice." "Me too." In June, I suggested we start trying for a baby. Sienna's eyes lit up. "Really? You think we're ready?" "I do. We're settled here. We're in a good place. Why wait?" "I would love that." We started trying. Sienna was radiant with hope, talking about baby names, nursery colors, the future we'd build together. And every time I looked at her, I thought about Derek, about the hotel rooms, about the lies. In July, I received a message from Derek. It had been months since we'd spoken. I'd almost forgotten about him, which wasn't true, but I liked to pretend. "Elias, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I need you to know something. I'm sorry for all of it. I betrayed your trust and destroyed my own life in the process. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I regret everything." I stared at the message for a long time. He regretted everything. How nice. Did he regret fucking my wife? Probably not. He regretted getting caught. I typed out a response. "I appreciate you reaching out. I hope you're finding peace." Short, civil, meaningless, he responded immediately. "Are you and Sienna doing okay?" Interesting question. "We're great, really happy in San Francisco, about to start trying for kids." A long pause, then, "That's wonderful. I'm glad you're both doing well." Both. As if he still had any connection to her, as if he had any right to care about her well-being. "Take care of yourself, Derek." "You too, brother." I blocked his number after that. In August, Sienna got pregnant. She took the test on a Sunday morning, came out of the bathroom, crying happy tears. "We're going to have a baby!" I held her, felt her joy, and said all the right things. Inside, I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. Now she was truly trapped. We told our families, started planning for the nursery. Sienna glowed with happiness. All her anxiety from the past year seemingly evaporated. "I can't believe this is really happening," she said, her hand on her still flat stomach. "Our family." "Our family," I echoed. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat in our living room and thought about timing. The pregnancy would anchor her, make her dependent, make leaving me nearly impossible. And when the time was right, when she'd built her entire life around me, when she felt safe and loved and secure, I would detonate everything. Not yet, but soon. The pregnancy progressed normally. Sienna had some morning sickness, but handled it well. We went to every appointment together. I rubbed her feet, brought her ice cream at odd hours, did everything an expectant father should do. In November, we found out we were having a girl. "A daughter," Sienna said, crying again. "We're having a daughter." "She's going to be beautiful," I said. "Just like her mother." We picked out the name together. Maya. As Sienna's belly grew, I started the final phase. I created a folder on my computer labeled Project Documentation. Inside, I compiled everything. Photos from the security camera showing Derek in our bedroom, timestamps correlating with my work travel, hotel receipts, phone records, location data, the statement from the hotel manager, testimony from the legal deposition referencing Derek's pattern of deception, everything organized chronologically, clearly labeled, impossible to deny. I also documented our life in San Francisco. Photos of us happy together, text messages where Sienna expressed her love, evidence that I'd been a devoted husband despite knowing about her affair. I created a timeline showing exactly when I'd discovered the betrayal and every choice I'd made since. Then I waited for Maya to be born. Maya arrived in March, a week before her due date. 7 pounds, 6 ounces, perfect. Sienna was euphoric, exhausted, completely in love with our daughter. I held Maya in the hospital, this tiny person who was half me and half the woman who'd betrayed me, and felt something crack in my chest. She was innocent in all this. Whatever happened between Sienna and me, Maya deserved better than to be collateral damage. I pushed that thought away and focused on the plan. We brought Maya home, settled into the chaos of new parenthood. Sleepless nights, endless diapers, the profound terror of being responsible for something so fragile. Sienna was a natural mother, patient, attentive, loving. I watched her with our daughter and almost reconsidered everything. Almost. But then I'd remember Derek in our bed, remember every lie, remember the 1.5 years of deception while she planned our wedding, said her vows, promised forever. Maya was 3 months old when I executed the final phase. I waited until a Saturday morning in June. Sienna was in the kitchen making breakfast, Maya napping in her bassinet. "Can we talk?" I asked. "Of course." She smiled at me. "What's up?" I opened my laptop and turned it toward her. "I need to show you something." The first image was from the security camera. Derek, clearly visible, entering our bedroom. Sienna's face went white. "What? Where did you—" I clicked to the next image, Derek and Sienna kissing. "Elias!" Next image. Their clothes coming off. "Please," I clicked through the entire sequence. Every visit, every betrayal, every lie. Sienna was sobbing, reaching for me. "I can explain." "Don't." My voice was calm, cold. "I've known since February of last year, since before we got married." She froze. "What?" "I found out about you and Derek 14 months before our wedding. I've known this entire time." That's not possible. You couldn't have." "I installed the camera after I found the hotel receipt. I documented everything, your location data, the phone records, the hotel manager's statement. I have timestamps for every single time Derek came to our house while I was traveling." "Why didn't you say anything?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Because I wanted you to understand what betrayal feels like, what it's like to build a life with someone while they're lying to you every single day." "Elias, please." "I destroyed Derek's career, reported him for fraud, made sure he'd never work as an engineer again. I moved you across the country, isolated you from your support system, made you completely dependent on me. I convinced you to have a baby, knowing I was going to do this." Sienna was shaking. "You can't. This isn't. Everything you've built in the last 1.5 years, your happiness, your security,
Your family, it's all been a performance. I've been playing the loving husband while planning exactly how to make you feel what you made me feel. What about Maya? Maya is innocent, which is why I'm not leaving. I'm not divorcing you. That would be too easy. Then what are you doing? I smiled. We're going to stay married, raise our daughter, look perfect from the outside. But you're going to live every day knowing I know what you did. Knowing I stayed, not because I forgive you, but because watching you live with that knowledge is more satisfying than any divorce could be. That's insane. That's cruel. Is it? You fucked my best friend in our bed for over a year. You looked me in the eye and lied every single day. You married me knowing you were betraying me. How is what I'm doing any worse? She had no answer. Here's how this works, I continued. We stay married, we co-parent Maya, to everyone else we're happy. But you know that I know. You live with that weight. You never get to escape it. I won't do that. I'll leave. I'll take Maya. You won't. I opened another folder on the laptop because I have documented evidence of your affair and the deception. If you try to leave, I'll fight for custody. I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what you did, your family, your friends, future employers. I'll destroy your reputation the way you destroyed my trust. This is abuse. No, this is consequences. Sienna stared at me, tears streaming down her face. When did you become this person? The day I found out the woman I loved and the friend I trusted had been betraying me for 18 months. You created this version of me. That was 3 months ago. We still live in the same apartment, sleep in the same bed. Co-parent Maya, who's now 6 months old and has no idea her family is built on lies and revenge. Sienna barely speaks to me except when necessary. She cries often when she thinks I'm not watching. She's lost weight, looks exhausted all the time. But she hasn't left, because she knows I meant every word. To our neighbors, we're a normal family. The engineer and his wife, and their beautiful baby daughter. We say hello in the hallways. We take Maya to the park. We look like love, but Sienna lives every day knowing what I know. Seeing me care for our daughter, maintain the facade, smile at her across the breakfast table, she wanted me to confront her, to scream and cry and maybe forgive her, to give her the catharsis of confession and absolution. Instead, I gave her the slow, grinding weight of unspoken knowledge, the daily reminder that her betrayal is a permanent fixture in our marriage. Sometimes I catch her looking at me with
this mixture of horror and disbelief, like she can't quite believe I'm capable of this level of cold calculation. Good. Let her wonder what else I'm capable of. Let her lie awake at night thinking about how long I played the loving fiancé, the devoted husband, the excited father-to-be while knowing exactly what she'd done. Derek sends me messages occasionally, updates about his life in Ohio. He's engaged now to someone from his hometown, planning to get married next year. I always respond politely, "Congratulations, that's wonderful. I'm happy for you." He has no idea I destroyed his career deliberately, that every move I made was calculated to end him professionally. He thinks it was just bad luck, poor timing, a moral stand I had to take despite our friendship. He still calls me brother. Last week, Sienna finally tried to talk about it. "We can't live like this forever," she said. "Why not?" "Because it's destroying both of us." "Is it? I feel fine." "Elias, please, I made a mistake, a terrible, unforgivable mistake. But I love you, I love Maya. Can't we try to move past this? We have moved past it. We're living our lives. This isn't living. This is torture. For you, maybe. Doesn't it torture you, living with someone you hate? I considered this. I don't hate you, Sienna. Hate would require caring. I'm indifferent to you as a person. You're Maya's mother, which means I'm invested in your well-being for her sake. But beyond that? I shrugged. You're just someone I live with. She flinched, like I'd hit her. What happened to the man I married? She whispered. He died the day he found the envelope. You killed him. What's left is just the structure, still standing, still functional, but hollow inside. That's not true, isn't it? You tell me, Sienna, you lived with me for 18 months while fucking Derek. You looked into my eyes every day and lied. How well do you really know me? How well does anyone really know?
Anyone? She couldn't answer that. I know what you're thinking. That this is unhealthy. That I should have just divorced her. That staying together like this is wrong, especially with a child involved. Maybe you're right. But here's the thing about structural engineering. Sometimes the most elegant solution isn't the most obvious one. Sometimes you have to think in terms of long-term stability, not immediate gratification. Divorcing Sienna would have been easy, quick, final, but it wouldn't have taught her anything. She would have moved on eventually, found someone else. Maybe even reconnected with Derek after the dust settled. This way, she lives every day with the consequences of her choices. She sees what betrayal creates. She experiences what it's like to have someone smile at you while feeling nothing. As for Maya, she'll grow up in a stable home with two parents who co-parent effectively. We'll make sure she feels loved and secure. She'll never know about the
foundation her family is built on. And maybe that's the most honest truth of all. Most relationships are built on partial information and comfortable lies. Sienna and I are just more honest about the dishonesty. Sometimes late at night when I can't sleep, I think about Derek. About how he's probably happy now building a life in Ohio, convinced he got away with just some professional consequences. He doesn't know I took everything from him deliberately. He doesn't know that every move I made was designed to end him. And Sienna doesn't know that I never considered forgiving her. Not for a single moment. From the second I saw that first security footage, I knew exactly how this would play out. The therapy sessions, the move to San Francisco, the baby, all of it was planned, calculated, part of the long-term architecture of revenge. I'm not proud of that, but I'm not ashamed either. I'm simply complete. I built something permanent. Not love, not trust, but a structure that will stand for years, maybe decades. A marriage held together not by affection but by knowledge, by power, by the weight of consequences. Is it healthy? No. Is it fair to Maya? Probably not, but it's mine. I designed it. I executed it. And unlike the buildings I designed professionally, this structure will never be credited to me. No one will ever know what I built here except Sienna. And that's perfect, because she has to live in it every single day. This morning, I made Sienna coffee before work, just how she likes it. 1 sugar, splash of cream. She took it from me without making eye contact. Thank you, she said quietly. You're welcome. Maya babbled from her high chair, and we both turned to her, smiling. For a moment, we looked like any other parents enjoying breakfast with their daughter. Then our eyes met over Maya's head, and Sienna's smile faltered. She knows. She'll always know, and I'll always know that she knows. That's my revenge. Not dramatic, not violent, not even visible from the outside, just the slow, steady pressure of living with someone who sees you completely clearly and chooses to remain indifferent. They say the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. I disagree. The opposite of love is this: perfect knowledge without forgiveness, intimate proximity without connection, the daily performance of a relationship stripped of its meaning. Sienna wanted my love. She got my precision instead. Derek wanted my friendship. He got my calculated destruction instead. And I wanted justice, revenge, some kind of satisfaction. What I got was this hollow morning, this fake smile, this life that looks perfect and feels empty. Maybe we're all living in the ruins of what we destroyed together. Maybe that's the real punishment. Not what I did to them, but what we all did to ourselves. Or maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe revenge is supposed to feel hollow. Maybe that's the point. The envelope sits in my desk drawer at work. The original one, with the photograph and the receipt. I never found out who sent it. Sometimes I think about that person, whoever they were, whatever their motivation. They saw something I didn't want to see and decided I should know. Were they trying to help me? Hurt me? Did they have their own agenda? I'll never know, but whoever they were, they changed everything. One envelope, one photograph, one receipt. That's all it took to start the demolition. Now I live in the rubble, pretending it's a foundation. And Sienna lives here too, pretending she doesn't see the cracks. And Maya will grow up thinking, this is what love looks like. God help us all. But here's the thing about revenge that no one tells you. It doesn't heal anything. It doesn't fill the emptiness where trust used to live. It doesn't bring back the version of yourself that existed before betrayal. I destroyed Derek's career. Check. I trapped Sienna in a marriage built on knowledge of her betrayal. Check. I executed my plan flawlessly. Check. And I feel nothing. Not satisfied, not vindicated, not even particularly angry anymore. Just empty. I'm a hollow structure, still standing, still functional, but serving no real purpose beyond supporting its own weight. Sienna was right about one thing. I'm not the man she married, but she's not the woman I thought I was marrying either. Maybe we deserve each other. Maybe this empty marriage, performative parenthood, this daily reminder of mutual destruction, maybe that's exactly what we both earned. Last night, Maya woke up crying at 2 a.m. I got up to feed her, let Sienna sleep. I sat in the nursery we'd so carefully decorated, holding my daughter while she took her bottle, and I looked at her perfect little face. She has Sienna's eyes, my nose, a blend of both of us, innocent of all the poison that created her. "I'm sorry," I whispered to her. "I'm sorry you're growing up in this." She just looked at me with those big green eyes and kept drinking her formula. In that moment, I felt something crack inside me. Not breaking. I'd already broken long ago, but shifting. Settling. Maybe this is what I deserve. Not happiness, not peace. Just this. A beautiful daughter I love desperately. A wife I can't forgive but can't leave. A life that looks perfect and feels empty. A revenge that satisfied nothing and cost everything. I think about the envelope sometimes. About the moment before I opened it. When I still believed in brotherhood and fidelity and the permanence of love. I can't go back to that version of myself. He died in a coffee shop 14 months ago, watching security footage of his wife and best friend in his bed. What's left is just this, the architect of his own demolition, living in the ruins, smiling for the cameras and waiting for something, anything, to feel real again. I still see Derek's messages sometimes. Still respond politely, still pretend. I wonder if he knows, if Sienna ever told him what I did, if he's figured out that his career destruction wasn't just bad luck, but orchestrated revenge. Probably not. People believe what's comfortable, and it's more comfortable to think you failed through your own mistakes than to know someone you trusted set you up to fail. Just like it was more comfortable for me to believe in my perfect friendship and my perfect marriage than to see what was really happening. We're all just believing our own comfortable lies. The difference is, I know I'm lying now, and I do it anyway. Every morning I wake up next to a woman I don't trust. Every night I kiss my daughter goodnight and wonder what I've condemned her to. Every day I go to work and design buildings that will stand for decades, monuments to permanence and stability. And then I come home to my own structure, this marriage, this family, this elaborate revenge, and marvel at how something can look so solid while being completely hollow inside. Maybe that's the final truth of this whole thing. Revenge doesn't heal you. It just gives you something to do with your pain, a project, a purpose, a reason to keep moving when everything inside you is dead. I built this, all of it. The question I can't answer is, was it worth it? Ask me again in 20 years, when Maya's grown, when Sienna's forgotten what hope feels like, when I've spent 2 decades perfecting this performance. Then maybe I'll know if what I built was justice or just another kind of ruin. But for now I just live here, in the house that betrayal built, with the family that revenge created. And I pretend it's enough, because the alternative, admitting that I destroyed everything in pursuit of a satisfaction that doesn't exist, is too terrible to contemplate. So I'll keep pretending, keep smiling, keep building, one day, one lie, one hollow moment at a time, until even I can't tell the difference between the performance and reality. Maybe that's when the revenge will finally be complete. Not when they suffer, but when I can no longer remember what it felt like before suffering became my architecture, before betrayal became my foundation, before revenge became my only remaining skill. The envelope is still in my desk drawer. Sometimes I take it out and look at it. The photograph, the receipt, the evidence that changed everything. And I wonder, what if I'd never opened it? What if I'd thrown it away, lived in comfortable ignorance, maybe never found out? Would that have been better or worse? I'll never know. All I know is this: one envelope, one photograph, one receipt. That's all it took to tear down 15 years of friendship and 3 years of love. And now I live in what remains. The architect and his empty towers, still standing, still hollow, still pretending that standing is the same as living. Maybe one day I'll believe it. Maybe one day Sienna will forgive herself. Maybe one day Derek will realize what I took from him. Maybe one day Maya will look at her parents and see the truth beneath the performance. But probably not. Probably we'll all just keep playing our roles. The betrayed husband who never left, the unfaithful wife who can't escape, the destroyed friend who never understood, the innocent daughter who inherited the ruins, all of us trapped in the structure I built. All of us pretending it's shelter instead of prison. All of us waiting for something that will never come, the satisfaction of revenge, the healing of betrayal, the restoration of what was broken. Some things once destroyed can't be rebuilt. You can only decide what to do with the ruins. I chose to live in them, to make them look like home, to convince everyone, including myself, that this is what I wanted all along. And maybe, in some twisted way, it is. Maybe this hollow existence, this permanent reminder
of betrayal, this daily reenactment of pain. Maybe that's exactly what I deserve, for being blind, for being trusting, for loving people who didn't love me back. Or maybe it's what they deserve, for being liars, for being cowards, for taking everything I gave them and throwing it away. I don't know anymore. All I know is this: the envelope is in my drawer. Sienna is in our bed. Maya is in her crib. Derek is in Ohio. And I'm here, in the ruins of everything I built. Still standing, still functional, still hollow, just like I designed it. Perfect, empty, forever.